A few weeks ago, BattleBit Remastered held its first playtest for the so-called Operation Overhaul, a complete rework of the game that devs have been working on for the past 2 years. The core changes and improvements of this version were focused on all aspects of the game, from map redesigns to graphic improvements to a complete overhaul of gameplay mechanics and more, and I've already went over the most important changes in a separate video a while back, so be sure to check the link in the info box if you missed this one. But not all of these changes that were made were well thought out, and not all of them did sit quite well with the community. So just recently the developers shared 2 blog posts where they went over some of the feedback from the playtest and what they learned from it, and also how they want to change and improve things before the next one. And the biggest problem during the playtest was for sure the performance. Due to a memory leak, the FPS dropped to around 5 to 10 within only a few minutes of playtime, and only a full restart of the game could improve it. But of course only for a few minutes before the FPS started to drop into oblivion again, and then rinse and repeat. But this memory leak caused the game to be more reminiscent of a slideshow than actual gameplay. And the reason for this was the large number of new audio cues they have introduced to the game with Operation Overhaul, from gunshots, gear, vehicles and ambience to how sounds interact with the player. And this new audio has led to an overload on the RAM and CPU of players and caused the annoying memory leak alongside its effects. But luckily the developers could identify where the issue is coming from and also found a solution for this. And the solution is that they have now switched to a new audio engine, because in the past they had used Unity's audio system, which had worked fine up to this point, but with a large amount of new sounds that were added and how they interact with each other, this system was simply overwhelmed. So now they switched to Fmod, a very well-known third-party audio system that is widely used within the industry and is well optimized and well thought out for all kinds of games and scenarios. So the devs now move all the audio that is in the game over to this new system and will run a dedicated performance playtest in the near future to check if everything works fine and if the memory leak was successfully eliminated. So this issue was identified and is now being resolved. However, another huge point of criticism after the playtest was the new time to kill, which was noticeably slower than it is in the current version of the game, and some playtesters even described it as being sluggish. Now, one thing that has affected the time to kill in the playtest were the performance issues, so it did feel even slower and more sluggish than it was intended. But it's true that the devs are trying to make the time to kill a little bit slower than it is in the current build. The reason for this is that they want players to have a reasonable amount of time to react when they're getting shot at, and that players get the feeling for where they're shot from and also why they're dying. So the longer time to kill will definitely stay. This of course also includes a full pass on all weapons, so that they all align with this new time to kill and that there are no outliers with faster time to kills. But from my experience with the Operation Overhaul playtest, I gotta say that the slower time to kill actually felt pretty good and a lot better for the game than the current one, at least in the parts where it was intended and before it was additionally affected by the drop in performance. So it still needs some tweaking and some fine-tuning for each weapon and also with the performance, but I think that this slower time to kill is definitely a good step. Additionally, the audio and animations of all weapons are reworked as well. Here the devs shared a short clip of a few weapon comparisons and how the audio and animation has changed from the current version of the game to Operation Overhaul. And this sounds so much better than it does right now. The weapons sound more impactful and I would also say more realistic. And what is also noticeable is that not every weapon sounds the same. So definitely a step into the right direction as well. And talking about weapons, something that has also caused some confusion during the playtest was the massive amount of tracers and what they looked like, because they were more reminiscent of Star Wars blaster fire than bullet tracers. And here the devs are saying that this might have been caused by the poor performance, because the FPS were so low for some players, or actually for a lot of players, that it might have looked worse than it actually is. So for this point, they're hoping that it resolves itself once the performance is fully fixed, but they will of course keep an eye on this and make sure that it's not as excessive as it looked like in the playtest. In addition to this, they have also added a new ricochet effect to bullets. So when bullets are hitting walls or the ground, this will not only have an audio effect now, but also a visual effect. And every surface has a different chance for this effect to appear. For example, steel will have the highest chance, naturally of course, and dirt has almost no chance to show this effect. However, this is and will always be a purely visual effect. So the bullets that ricochet will not actually deal damage to you or any other player. And talking about visual effects, another topic that players gave feedback on was the amount of snow falling on some of the maps. Here a lot of players felt that it was too much and that the snow was distracting, but also decreased visibility. So the devs reduced the amount of snow already and will keep monitoring this with the next playtest. And lastly, there was also feedback to the vehicle physics from players in the playtest, but also from players of the current build. And the main point of criticism here is that vehicles overall feel too floaty and that they can be hard to control as well. And the devs also made some changes here and say that in future playtests and also in future builds of the game, the vehicles will feel like they have weight to them rather than feeling floaty. But this will be tested over several iterations and will be tweaked over time based on player feedback. Now, the question that remains is, of course, is all of this enough to get the game back on track? Well, from my personal perspective, I gotta say that I did enjoy the first Operation Overhaul playtest with all its new and refined features, except for the performance issues, of course. And I do appreciate that the devs seem to be more communicative again and that they're sharing their learnings, and also that they're actively working with the community again to improve the game. However, when BattleBit was released back then, it clearly benefited from the poor state of Battlefield. During a time where a lot of players were disappointed of the franchise they had played for years or even decades, BattleBit stepped in and delivered an experience that was at least closer to Battlefield than Battlefield itself. But over time, also due to the devs not updating the game anymore and falling into complete radio silence, the game has lost almost all of its player base. Still, I think that it could return to a state where it has a bigger core audience again when it is improved and frequently updated, and Operation Overhaul could be a good start for this. Plus, it could return at a pretty good time, because with Battlefield 6 having a rough time as well right now, BattleBit could once again fill this gap and could scratch the classic Battlefield itch where Battlefield itself is struggling to deliver. This window of opportunity will not be open forever though, so if the devs can get their stuff together and relaunch the game in a good state, they could meet a player base waiting for a title exactly like this, but if they miss the opportunity again, I don't think players will give them another chance. So we can just wait and see what the devs make of this. There's no new date for another playtest so far, but once the performance issue is fully fixed, I'm sure we will see another test that's open for everyone. In the meantime, however, you can only join their Discord and try to participate in one of the closed performance tests. Link to the Discord is in the description below, and once we get more details and a date for another open playtest, I will keep you updated as well. So if you enjoyed this video right here and you don't want to miss out on any future videos, be sure to drop a like and subscribe, and I'm gonna see you in the next one. I'm the Catwoman and you are awesome.